Have you ever sat in stillness and felt a quiet knowing? A sense that the life you see around you is just one current in a vast, unseen river of possibilities. We are taught to view our lives as a single, solid path, one that stretches from a fixed past into a future we can only hope to influence. We are told to work hard, to struggle against the current. But what if that is not the whole truth? Ancient wisdom whispers a more profound reality. It suggests that all paths, every potential past, present, and future, already exist, flowing together in a timeless ocean of consciousness. This is not a mystical fantasy. It is the very nature of your awareness, and understanding how to navigate this ocean is the key to true freedom. In the time we share together, we will not speak of attracting or manifesting. We will explore the simple, transformative art of selecting the reality you wish to inhabit, of learning to shift your place in the river. This is the journey of discovering that you are not the ship, tossed about by the waves. You are the navigator. Humanity often lives within a garden of its own making, yet believes it is lost in a barren wilderness. The key to seeing the garden has always rested within, but it has been a quiet knowledge, shared not in lecture halls, but in the stillness of reflective hearts. This is not a secret to be hoarded. It is a precise understanding of how reality takes shape, an insight that the great sages knew, and that modern inquiry is only now beginning to touch upon through its explorations of the deep, connected nature of all things. The essential insight lies in seeing that linear time, the way we experience it from moment to moment, is an illusion born of our limited perspective. Imagine you are walking a path in a great forest. You see only the step before you, the trees immediately to your left and right. But there is a higher perspective, a mountaintop from which the entire forest, with all its infinite paths, can be seen at once. That mountaintop is the deeper dimension of your own awareness. From that space of knowing, past, present, and future are not a sequence. They are a landscape. The great teachers of inner science discovered through direct experience that you possess a faculty of mind capable of ascending to this peak. This faculty is your focused imagination, guided by a clear intention. This is not mere daydreaming. It is the ability to see and feel from a four-dimensional perspective. Within you, right now, exist two distinct ways of perceiving life. Most of us are familiar with the first, the perspective of the senses. It is the part of your mind that trusts only what it can see, touch, and measure. It looks upon the world as it is and declares, "This is solid, this is fact." From this viewpoint, life is a series of reactions to external events. The second way of seeing is the focus of deep awareness. The ancient traditions might have called this the mind of spirit, not in a religious sense, but as the state of consciousness that remembers its own creative nature. This mind looks through the surface of things, beyond the veil of the physical world, and sees the ocean of infinite possibility that waits for your conscious direction. The habit of relying solely on your physical senses is like living in a beautiful home, but only ever looking at the floorboards, never glancing up at the windows. To cultivate your inner vision, the ability to perceive from this higher vantage point, you must gently and deliberately unhook your attention from the evidence of your senses. This requires a quiet discipline. It asks you to place your focus on an unseen state, to feel it from within with such warmth and conviction that it gains all the clarity and substance of the world outside. Thought that is gently concentrated and sustained in one direction has the power to let all other impressions fade away, allowing them to temporarily dissolve from your awareness. You see, the outer world functions like a perfect, living echo. It has no will of its own, no agenda, no preferences. It exists only to faithfully reflect back to you the truth of what your own consciousness is projecting. Imagine yourself standing in a great valley. If you send out a shout of joy, a joyful echo returns. If you send out a cry of sorrow, sorrow is what you will hear. The valley does not judge, it simply responds. This principle of perfect reflection is not an accident. It is woven into the fabric of existence because the universal consciousness, the source of all, seeks to experience itself through your unique perspective and countless others. Your freedom to choose your inner state is absolute and sacred, because without it, the journey of life would be a meaningless play with a predetermined script. When you persist in a new, inner vision of yourself, holding it gently in your imagination with unwavering faith, the echoing universe has no alternative but to rearrange itself to match this new reality. In the three-dimensional world, this rearrangement looks like a series of fortunate events, meaningful encounters, and unexplained shifts in circumstance. But from a place of deep awareness, we find it is simply the echo adjusting itself to the new sound you are creating. Understanding this fundamental law opens the door to a gentle alchemy. The conscious transformation of the dense lead of present circumstances into the shining gold of your chosen future. Desire is not a human failing to be disciplined away, contrary to what some teachings suggest. It is the engine of creation, the very impulse through which life expands and becomes. Without desire, you would not lift a hand. This is a law as certain as the pull of the earth, but infinitely more profound in its meaning. Notice carefully, the only desires that truly move you to action are those that capture and hold your attention. Countless vague wishes drift through your mind each day, but only the ones that magnetize your sustained focus gain the power to reshape your world. And here lies a simple truth: every desire, without exception, contains the seed of well-being. There is no such thing as a truly selfless desire. Where there is nothing to be gained, no sense of fulfillment, desire cannot take root, and therefore no action is born. This is not a flaw in the grand design. It is precisely what allows the system of individual creation to function. The one consciousness became many, precisely to experience the joy of desiring, exploring, and realizing through each unique point of view. To attempt to eliminate personal desire would be like asking your own heart to stop beating. It would be a movement against the very current of life itself. The key to your growth, to realizing the quiet dreams that live within you, lies in a radical practice: immediate, trusting obedience to the voice of your deepest desires. Not the fleeting whims, but the deep longing that rises from your center and asks to be heard. When such a desire emerges, the wise response is not to doubt it, but to understand that its very presence indicates the existence of a path toward its fulfillment. To truly desire a state is to already possess it in the greater landscape of reality. This is not a metaphor. It is a literal description of the mechanics of creation. Desire is the evidence that what you seek already exists as a possibility, awaiting your conscious selection. The only question is, will you allow yourself to feel the feeling of already being there? This is where we arrive at the most transformative and often misunderstood principle of inner science, assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled and living from that place of inner knowing literally selects the future that matches your assumption. This isn't about self-deception. It is about recognizing that on the four-dimensional landscape where all possible timelines coexist, you are choosing which one to walk by the state of consciousness you inhabit now. The mechanics are precise. When you firmly sustain the feeling of being who you desire to be, of having what you wish to have, you are attuning your entire being to the vibrational signature of that reality. The echoing universe, which has no agenda of its own, must then orchestrate all the necessary elements to bring into your outer world what you are holding as true within. But why does this profound understanding remain unfamiliar to so many? Why do billions of people live their entire lives without ever discovering the creative power they hold? The answer lies in the veil of forgetfulness that each soul accepts when entering this experience. You and the infinite are one, not in a poetic sense, but factually. However, to make this earthly journey authentic, you agreed to temporarily forget your true nature. It is like entering an incredibly immersive virtual game, where for a time, you believe you are the character, completely forgetting that you are the player. If you maintained full awareness of being the omnipotent source of every experience, where would the challenge be? Where would be the surprise, the growth, the journey of remembrance. This forgetfulness is what makes the adventure genuine. This veil explains the central paradox of human experience. When people ask, how could a loving source allow so much suffering? They begin from a mistaken premise. There is no separate God permitting or denying things. We, each of us, are creating our experiences through the unknowing use of the law of our own being. The great cosmic echo doesn't judge whether your call is wise or foolish. It simply reflects. When you exist in a state of chaos, fear, or conflict, the world cannot help but echo back reflections of chaos, fear, and conflict. Not because it is cruel, but because it is unyieldingly faithful. It is a perfect system in its simplicity. You receive the exact reflection of what you are being. Nothing more, nothing less. The human tragedy is not found in the system itself, but in the ignorance of how it functions. Billions of people operate this powerful creative instrument completely unaware, creating by default instead of by design, and reaping results that seem random, but are, in truth, perfect reflections of their inner states. Years of quiet observation by masters of inner worlds have revealed a specific formula for accessing that higher perspective and consciously choosing a desired future. This is not just one technique among many. It is the fundamental method discovered by all who have truly mastered the art of conscious creation. The first step requires a gentle clarity. You must know precisely what you desire. Vague hopes for more happiness or success are like fuzzy instructions. The creative mechanism of the universe responds only to clear intent. You must know with a peaceful certainty which state you wish to embody. The second step is more subtle and calls for deep understanding. You must inwardly construct an event that you would naturally experience after your desire is fulfilled, not during, but after. This event must clearly imply that your goal is already accomplished. You must be an active participant in this inner scene, not just a spectator. If you desire a specific role, do not imagine being offered the position. Instead, imagine a quiet conversation with a loved one a few weeks later, where you mention your new role as an established, natural fact of your life. The third step goes against everything modern culture teaches about productivity. It involves the complete stillness of the physical body and the gentle induction of a state bordering sleep and wakefulness. Lie down or relax deeply in a chair. Close your eyes. Let your body grow heavy and still. This is not a time for physical action. It is a time for dimensional action. In this state of bodily stillness and heightened inner awareness, with your attention gathered, you must feel yourself performing your chosen action right here and now. Not tomorrow, not someday. Now, the deeper dimension of consciousness does not recognize linear time. To it, your vivid, heartfelt imagination and your physical experience carry the same weight of reality. The critical distinction that separates those who succeed from those who struggle lies at this very point. You must actively participate in the imaginary action, not observe it from a distance. Many people visualize their desires as if they were watching a movie about themselves. This is of little use. You must be inside the scene, feeling it with your own inner senses, touching the textures, hearing the sounds, experiencing the emotions as if you were physically present. Experience teaches a lesson that feels counterintuitive. It is far more effective to distill your imaginary action to a single, short, and meaningful act and repeat it gently until it takes on the feeling of reality. Trying to create a long, complex story dissipates your mental energy. A single gesture, a handshake of congratulations, the feeling of a wedding band on your finger, the simple act of turning a key in a new door, when repeated with feeling and intensity, holds more creative power than hours of elaborate fantasy. If you are someone who finds detailed visualization challenging, there is a wonderfully potent technique. In a relaxed, sleepy state, simply repeat a short phrase that implies the fulfillment of your desire. The words, "thank you," are particularly powerful, as they carry the deep feeling that something has already been received. "It is finished" also holds great certainty. The phrase becomes an inner mantra, a vibrational key that aligns your consciousness with the reality you have chosen. timing is important. If your goal is a deep, conscious projection, you must sustain this practice until you drift naturally into sleep. Do not force sleep. Allow it to come on its own. While you are marveled in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, it is in the moment of transition between waking and sleep that the curtain between worlds becomes the thinnest. But here is the truth that is often overlooked. This practice requires what our fast-paced society tends to dismiss: sustained, gentle inner discipline without immediate outer guarantees. In an age of instant results, you are being asked to plant seeds in the invisible soil of consciousness and trust in laws that your senses cannot yet confirm. You must experience in imagination, with all the sensory richness of life, what you would experience in the flesh once your goal is reached. You must sustain this inner reality even when the outer world seems to cry out that nothing has changed. This process calls for a kind of controlled, parallel living. You exist in two realities at once until the inner one becomes the outer one. During the day, you walk through the world of appearances, meeting your obligations. But in your moments of quiet practice, you completely inhabit the reality where your desire is an accomplished fact. This is not denial, it is applied dimensional engineering. Failure in this practice almost always stems from one of three places: a lack of clarity in the objective, being a passive observer instead of an active participant, or abandoning the practice too soon when the senses do not see immediate change. The universe seems to test the sincerity of your intention through the apparent delay between the planting of the seed and the harvest. Assumptions function like seeds planted in the garden of your mind. Once an assumption takes root in your consciousness, it begins to draw all the elements of reality to it until the outer world has no choice but to conform to its design. This is not a pretty analogy. It is a literal description of how your beliefs solidify into physical facts. Nurture a premise in your mind, any statement you assume to be true, and watch what happens. The assumption, even if it feels completely untrue to your senses at first, if it is persisted in until it takes on the visceral feeling of reality, begins to exert a quiet but irresistible influence over everything and everyone in your world. For an assumption held with gentle conviction, all the means that lead to its fulfillment become not just possible, but inevitable. The mechanism is elegant in its impartiality. The assumption first shapes your own behavior in subtle ways you may not even notice. Your posture might change, the tone of your voice may soften or grow more confident. Your subtle expressions begin to transmit this new inner reality. Then, like ripples on a still pond, it begins to influence the behavior of others, inspiring them toward movements, words, and actions that support the fulfillment of your premise. People who were never a part of your life may suddenly appear, offering the very thing you need. Seemingly insurmountable obstacles may dissolve without explanation. Unlikely coincidences align with perfect timing. The skeptic calls this chance. The one who understands sees the unmistakable signature of a new seed sprouting in the garden of reality. If this is awakening a sense of recognition within you, a feeling of coming home to a truth you've always known in your heart, then I invite you to join our community of fellow explorers. It is a space for gentle reminders and shared wisdom on this path of conscious creation. Click the subscribe button to become part of a circle that is dedicated to remembering who we truly are. Your presence here enriches us all. But here is the implication that few are prepared to face. If all change happens first in consciousness, then there is absolutely no external force that dictates your destiny. None. Your future, though it may appear solid and unchangeable, is a field of infinite potential coexisting right now. In every single moment, you are presented with a choice of which of these many futures you will select through your present state of being. This discovery should feel incredibly liberating, but for many, it can be terrifying. It means taking gentle and complete responsibility for every aspect of your experience. There is no longer anyone or anything to blame. Not circumstances, not other people, not the economy, not your past, not karma, not any external power. You are where you are because it is the perfect, mathematical reflection of your sustained assumptions. The quantum field, the universal consciousness, that which some call God, has no agenda of its own. It relies completely on you to give it direction for your experience. It is a perfect servant, not a dictatorial master. It responds with absolute precision to your sustained inner command. But that command must come from you. Waiting for the universe to decide your fate is like sitting before a quiet loom and expecting it to weave a tapestry on its own. The trap that so many fall into is looking to the outer world for evidence before they have committed to the inner change. They check the bank account to see if the abundance has appeared. They observe a loved one's behavior for signs of improvement. They look in the mirror for confirmation of healing. This is the very definition of looking for change in the wrong place. It is like looking at a reflection in a pond and trying to change the image without changing yourself. Before seeking any outer proof, the only relevant question is, who am I being in this moment? Not who you were yesterday, not who you plan to be tomorrow. Who are you being now? If inwardly you are someone who is waiting, hoping, and feeling a sense of lack, the echoing valley of the world has no choice but to reflect back to you the experience of waiting, hoping, and lacking. You can cover the walls of your mental home with positive thoughts, but if the foundation is one of lack, the home is still a home of lack. True change begins when you inwardly assume the state of your desire fulfilled, regardless of all sensory evidence. You feel the warmth of abundance while your pockets are empty. You feel the peace of being loved while you are alone. You feel the vibrancy of health while symptoms persist. This is not a denial of reality. It is a profound understanding that inner reality always comes first and outer reality always follows. The interval of time between the inner change and the outer manifestation will vary, but the sequence never changes. First comes the shift in the state of consciousness. Then the world reorganizes itself to match. Trying to reverse this order is like planting a seed today and digging it up tomorrow to check for growth. Impatience is the force that withers more dreams than any external obstacle. Each moment offers you a crossroads. You can choose to react to what your senses report, which only perpetuates the past into the future. Or you can choose to respond from the state you have chosen to be, consciously selecting which future to call forth. The power has always been and will always be entirely yours. The ability to think from this higher perspective is not a special gift for mystics. It is an innate faculty, temporarily dormant in many due to social conditioning, but fully functional within every human being. What has been shared here are not theories for idle thought. They are operational instructions for transcending the perceived prison of linear time. The essence is this: you live in a mental universe where your consciousness is the only reality and your imagination is its creative power. The world your senses show you is the effect, never the cause. To try and alter effects by manipulating other effects is the endless game of sleeping humanity. The true awakening occurs when you understand, in the very core of your being, that only by changing your inner activity can you produce any lasting outer change. We live in a fascinating era where the deepest esoteric knowledge is freely available, yet humanity is more hypnotized than ever by outer appearances. Millions meditate, affirm, and visualize, but they continue to operate from the mistaken premise that they are small, separate beings trying to attract something from a distant and reluctant universe. They don't yet understand that they are the universe itself, experiencing life through a unique and precious focal point. The need for conscious awakening has never been more pressing, not because of some external event, but because every single day lived in ignorance of this power is a day spent creating by accident instead of by choice. How many undesired futures are being selected in this very moment by billions of people operating on autopilot? Systems of external control depend on this very ignorance. A population that believes itself to be a victim of circumstances is infinitely easier to guide than a population that knows it is the creator of its circumstances. This is why true, Inner knowledge is often dismissed as wishful thinking, while a sense of learned helplessness is sold as realism. It is an old pattern that continues to this day. You now have the specific method, a precise inner technology for consciously navigating the deeper dimension and selecting the future you choose to experience. The temptation will be to treat this as just another interesting idea to file away. After all, applying it requires something that the modern mind is trained to avoid: sustained discipline without external reward. It asks you to act on a law your senses cannot confirm until after the results appear. It requires you to hold your inner vision steady when the outer world is shouting that nothing is different. This journey is not about acquiring knowledge. It is a commitment to a way of being, a promise you make to the highest part of yourself. If you are ready to make that quiet commitment, to honor the navigator within you and begin steering your life with conscious intent, then make a simple declaration by joining our shared journey. Your subscription is more than a click. It is a statement to yourself that you are ready to take the helm. Begin tonight. Not tomorrow, not when things feel more settled. Tonight, before you sleep, choose one specific, meaningful desire. Construct a simple scene that implies its fulfillment. Lie down, close your eyes, and actively, lovingly participate in that scene until you drift off to sleep while inside of it. Approach this with the same sincerity you would bring to a healing practice for your own body. Because, in a very real sense, that is exactly what you are doing. Do not look for confirmation in the outer world for the first few days or weeks. The gardener who plants a seed does not disturb the soil daily to check for progress. They trust the unseen law of growth, just as you trust the law of gravity. You will prove this law's infallible operation for yourself. The three-dimensional world will continue to present its evidence of the past. People may continue to see you in the old way. Circumstances may seem unchanged. This is the test, not of the technique, for it works with mathematical precision, but of your ability to remain faithful to your inner vision despite the outer noise. Every moment offers the same simple choice: react to the past that is crystallized in your senses, or respond from the future you have selected in your imagination. The first choice perpetuates what is known. The second creates the new. You have always been free to choose. The only difference is that now you are aware of that choice. The future you will inhabit already exists as a fully formed reality waiting for your conscious selection. The only question that truly matters is, which future will you choose?